Everybody, it's Louise Gittleman once again, and welcome to my kitchen party. I wanted to take you all into my kitchen in Idaho, but I couldn't fit you in, so I brought the kitchen here. I brought the foods, the snacks, the oils, the cooking utensils, and the water filtration devices that are so important for a healthy kitchen. Now, wouldn't you agree, number one, that not one diet fits everybody? If you do, let me see it. Let me hear some love. Let me see some thumbs up, let me see some hearts, let me see some flowers, because one diet doesn't fit everybody. But what's important is that the diet that does fit you is filled with the most healthy, wholesome, non-GMO food. And in that regard, regardless of whether you're on keto, paleo, you're a vegan, or whether you're following a carnivore diet, I'm going to give you the recipe that I learned over 50 years ago from a woman that lived to the ripe old age of 106. And it's the Clorox remedy for the solution that you use when you're going to give all your foods a detoxifying bath. What you do is you take your vegetables and your fruits, as well as your meats, your fish, your eggs, and you separate them into different groups. And you put a little bit of Clorox, at least a half a teaspoon, in a gallon of water, and you bathe your different food groups, your thin-skinned veggies, your thick-skinned veggies, your thin-skinned fruits, your thicker-skinned fruits, your fish, your meat, your eggs, and you put it in a bath for at least 10 to 15 minutes, after which, when you set your timer and it goes off, you bathe your food in a fresh bath of water. That will detoxify your foods from salmonella, from virus, from parasites, from pesticides and herbicides, as well as mold. So it's one of the most important things you can do regardless of any diet that you're on. Of course, the programs that I've written about, Fat Flush as well as Radical Metabolism, are just different versions of a clean ketogenic program. Now, beyond the healthy food that you need, I want to give you something else that's so important in my program, and that is the concept that health is God's greatest gift to man. And wouldn't you agree? Health is God's greatest gift to man. Health is that which we use for the first 60 years of our life in order to gain wealth, after which we use up our wealth to try and recapture our lost health. So to turn that around, we need healthy food, because food, not vitamins, not minerals, not potions, is your best medicine. If you agree that food is your best medicine, let me hear that too, with a thumbs up, a lot of love, or some flowers, because food is where it's at, and it's becoming an increasingly deficient and depleted commodity. So in that regard, if we've got our food cleaned up with the Clorox bath, it's going to last at least 2 weeks longer in the fridge. It will take away the metallic-y taste of the food. And for those of you that are susceptible to the flu, we have found that individuals that Clorox their food on a regular basis do not come down with the flu or any kind of virus as predominantly as other people. So Clorox is here to stay. It was discovered about 60 years ago by my mentor, Dr. Parcells. And from my understanding, the Clorox formula that I just gave you, a half a teaspoon of Clorox, the regular Clorox with the Chloramax formula, is now registered in the Smithsonian Institute. So that's another thumbs up. Now, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. I think it's important that everybody has a home filtration unit, because the water in this day and age is abominable. It's not negotiable. So for those of you that want the best home filtration unit, there's one called Metal Gone, G-O-N, Metal Gone, that you can get through my distributor, Unikey Health Systems. And I've allowed them to distribute this, and I've told them to do so because I've done a lot of investigation into water. As many of you know, water in this day and age can be contaminated with pharmaceuticals, with birth control pills, with rocket fuel. It can be contaminated with glyphosates, as well as heavy metals. And it's my feeling that some of the heavy metals in the water, from the lead to the copper, to the problems that we're now having with excess mercury and even aluminum and fluoride, may be one of the reasons that we're coming down with so much Alzheimer's. So the only filter that I have found that not only gets rid of the glyphosates, the pharmaceuticals, and the heavy metals is the Metal Gone. It will also remove parasitic cysts, like the parasitic cysts that you can get from giardia, which chlorine does not get rid of, as well as cryptosporidium. So metal gone is not negotiable. I have this in my own home, as well as a home filtration unit for the entire home. And I think that's exceedingly important. To transfer my filtered water, I use a glass bottle from the, what is this? This is from Voss, and I get this in the regular supermarket. So this is a glass bottle that I use so that I don't have to use a lot of plastics. This is something that we should all think about in terms of reducing the amount of the BPA that's in the environment, as well as the phthalates. Now, when it comes to cooking, cooking is so important because what you cook and what you cook in has a lot to do with health and disease. It can spell the difference between health and dis-ease. So my favorite new cooking utensil is not only the ones that I've talked to you about online before, which is your Vita clay, which cooks your food in clay, but is actually a Ramer top, and I'm going to point to it right here. My assistant will bring it to me. Thank you so much. The Ramer top is a clay pot. And this is important because when food cooks in clay, it cooks slowly. It's able to extract all the important nutrients and juices, which gives the food a delicious, lovely flavor. And food can cook below 180 degrees, which is the major sweet spot in terms of your food. So when you're cooking something in the oven, preheat the oven to 350. Wet your clay pot, the way I do with my Ramer top. Then slowly, after 20 minutes of preheating, turn the heat down to 200 degrees, and then your food is cooking in 180 degrees, which is the amount of heat that you need to preserve important vitamins, minerals, as well as enzymes. I love this clay-based pot because it is glazed with a non-leachable glass. So the glass has no leaching, there's no heavy metals, the food is absolutely delicious. I do beans in here, I do rice in here, I do soups in here, I do fish in here, and I've even done lamb chops in here. It's absolutely delightful. So think of this as like a sauna for your food, just the way that you go into a sauna for your body. But instead of extracting all the heavy minerals and metals, this is going to give you all the vital nutrients that you need to stay young and healthy in an increasingly toxic world. My other favorite utensil is actually another pot. It's a pan, to be quite honest, from Extrema. We're now finding that there's some wonderful pans on the market from companies that use ceramic. And this is a non-stick ceramic. And I've made the best eggs, the best bacon, my turkey bacon, of course, and I've made it in this particular pan because you do not need any liquid, you do not need any oil, and if you can, it's important to not cook with as much oil or liquid as possible, because when you cook with a lot of fats, they can become toxic because they present something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, and that can age you, and that is very predominant in diseases like diabetes, problems with the brain, the heart, the lungs, as well as problems with aging in terms of all the brown spots that can appear on your hands. So not cooking in a lot of oils, particularly olive oil or even coconut oil, is important for you. So that's why having a waterless cooking utensil is so very vital. Now there's another pan that's over here. It's actually a pot. Thank you so much. You're seeing a lot of hands on the screen. This particular pot is a salad master, and it's able to cook foods in a little bit of water, cooks foods in its own juice at the 180 degrees so that none of the vital enzymes are missing, which you need for health, healing, and longevity. Now, you can use this because it's a high-grade stainless steel, so that when people ask about the material that's in their pots and pans, we want to make sure that they're not using aluminum. How can you check? You take a magnet. If the magnet doesn't stick, you know that it may contain, that it is non-aluminum. Aluminum is a non-magnetic metal, so it means that if the aluminum doesn't stick, it is aluminum. There you have it. It's non-sticking, so that means it is aluminum. If the magnet sticks, then you know that it is magnetic, like iron or even nickel. So there you have it. This is very important because it's a high gauge stainless steel. It does not contain nickel. It does not contain aluminum. It does not contain copper. When you cook with aluminum, you dine on aluminum. When you cook with copper, you dine on copper. And there's now a great deal of interest out there with the understanding that there's so much copper in the environment, in your teeth, in your fillings, in your IUDs, as well as with the copper pipes that are so prolific in this country, as well as the water plumbing and so forth, that it may be one of the cause of premature dementia. So if you're going to be using any kind of aluminum foil, make sure that you have something called parchment paper instead. Either you can wrap the food in parchment paper and then do a second wrapping with aluminum foil, but make sure that your food is not touching aluminum. Aluminum chelates pepsin from the digestive tract, and it's very drying and very neutralizing to minerals like phosphorus, calcium, and magnesium. So beyond all this Cloroxing of your fruits, vegetables, your eggs, and your fish, as well as the purified water, I want to go on to some of my favorite oils. So the oils of life would include, number one, flaxseed oil. The brand that I like is the brand that taught every other brand what to do with flaxseed oil. It's called Omega Nutrition. Very freshly expressed. This is the gentleman that actually started the whole flaxseed oil, I'd say, phenomenon, and I've worked for all the biggest flaxseed oil companies in the country. They're all wonderful sources of nutrition, but this is the guy that started it all. He's the developer of Omega Nutrition. I love high lignin flaxseed oil as an estrogen modulator, very important for omega-3s and very important for the breast health of women. You need at least 1 tablespoon of an omega-3 in the liquid form per 100 pounds of body weight. This forms a very, very good staple in many of my programs, including the Fat Flush Plan. The other oil that I'm in love with has to do with pine nut oil. And as many of you know, the pine nut oil heals the digestive tract. Why? Because it's high in pinoleic acid, which is related to GLA or gamma-linolenic acid, which can heal the mucous membranes from the inside out. So if you have GERD, if you have H. pylori, if you've got any kind of ulceration, if you take a teaspoon to a tablespoon of this 1/2 hour before meals, it will start to heal you from the inside out. I also put this on salad dressings. You cannot cook with this or your flaxseed oil. They're very sensitive to heat, air, and light, but they're extremely good for the skin because this is a source of omega-6. And in the diet, you need a 4:1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. Now, one other trick of the trade that I've noticed is the aloe that I want to share with you. A lot of people ask how I keep my skin looking so vibrant, and at my age, that's really can be a task. The maintenance gets a little higher the older that you are, for those of us that know a little more, know a little better. So one of the tricks of the trade that I discovered is a product called Aloe One. It's called Stockton Aloe One. And I discovered this from a friend in Florida who told me about a 95-year-old gentleman that didn't have any wrinkles on his skin. And one of his secrets to health was the high polysaccharide content of the Aloe One. So you can find this online at aloe1.com, and you will see that it will come in a frozen bottle that you'll put either in the freezer or the refrigerator. You can take 1 to 2 ounces a day, and voila, you're going to heal your skin from the inside out and make sure that you look a little younger than your years. Now, when it comes to beverages, one of my favorites is the new Peak Tea Crystals. And if you like Peak Tea Crystals, let me hear about that too. The reason that I like Peak Tea is that of all the teas that I've experimented with and researched, this is the only company that actually tests their tea for fluoride, because most green teas and white teas and black teas are high sources of fluoride. I have a sneaking suspicion that all of the problems we have in this country with hypothyroidism, which is a veritable epidemic, is due to the enormous amount of tea that we're drinking. Thankfully, I've impressed upon many of the companies that I work with to make sure that the extracts of green tea that they put in their products are fluoride-free. But this is a company that has fluoride-free tea crystals. I'm very fond of them. The other company that I like is the Purity Coffee. Now, I have never been a coffee drinker. I admit it, I've been a coffee enema person, but not a coffee drinker. And when I learned that coffee is one of the highest sources of healing polyphenols in the diet, I had to revise my thinking, because with new research comes new thinking, new approaches to health. So I now believe that 1 to 2 cups of coffee a day keeps the doctor away. And because of the high polyphenol content, we're finding that this is very important for the prevention of certain cancers, especially liver cancer. Now, this particular tea that I talked about here is also a very high polyphenol product. This is the Peak Tea. But the Purity Coffee has about 10 times as many polyphenols and antioxidants as other varieties. And it's also tastier. It's also mold-free, which means that you're not getting a cup of pesticides or moldy beans when you're taking a cup of Purity coffee. It's the coffee that I believe in now, especially because not only is it mold-free, but they also have a caffeine-free alternative. Now, when it comes to snacks, which is a wonderful topic to discuss, I have never found really healthy snacks on the market, and certainly not healthy bars until recently. The bars that I recommend for everybody are now the Atlas protein bars. I have a lot of people that are consistently coming into my home. We've got a lot of young people. We've got a lot of grandchildren that come and visit, and they all need a little energy bar. So the Atlas bar with its protein is actually a keto-friendly vanilla almond chai. It's got the grass-fed whey. It's got clean ingredients. It's low sugar. It's gluten-free. It's soy-free, and it's absolutely delicious. So Atlas protein bars are the only bar that I truly recommend. And now when it comes to snacks, if you go right into your local Costco, you're going to find some grain-free granola. This particular one I'm delighted about because the Autumn's Gold grain-free granola contains almonds and organic maple syrup. And of all the sweeteners on the market, organic maple syrup is the healthiest because of all the sweeteners. It contains the lowest amount of fructose, number one. Number two, it's been found to be very healthy for diabetics. So this is the granola for those of you that need a little crunch in the morning. I take this with either some cashew yogurt or some Greek yogurt, and that's a very good source, of course, of calcium and probiotics. Other snacks that I love is a cookie that I have found. This is a tahini cookie, which is a favorite among many of my friends, many of my relatives, many of my guests. It's put out by Frankly Natural Bakeries, and you can get this at franklynaturally.com. It's the only cookie that I, as the daughter of a long line of diabetics, can eat without my blood sugar going up or down. It's a perfect mixture of a little bit of sweetener, and in this case, it's barley and corn malt, and a little bit of nuts, seeds, as well as tahini. Very good for blood sugar, very good as an occasional sweet. The best bar that I have found is one that I'm going to share with you right now, and this is called My Nutra dark chocolate bar with a little bit of hemp. So hemp to the rescue. Hemp is very healthy because hemp is a source of the healing omega-6s, and it's also a preventative against radiation poisoning, radiation exposure that you're getting from your cell phone, that you're getting from your smart meter, that you're getting from all of the environmental assaults. Now, when it comes to eating soups, the only bone broth that I recommend is a bone broth that I actually tested before the writing of my Radical Metabolism book, and it's the Kettle and Fire. I find that the Kettle and Fire chili with beans, which is made with grass-fed beef and bone broth, is the only bone broth that we have tested that does not contain lead. When you are eating a lot of bone broth from bones, you have no idea how much lead is being extracted from those bones because lead is deposited in bones. So this is the only bone broth product that I recommend. It's Kettle and Fire chili with beans. They've got a chicken bone broth. They've got a beef bone broth. They also have a Thai curry soup, which is also made with bone broth. One of the reasons that I talked to you about the importance of Clorox is I was taught long ago that when it comes to making a bone broth with bones, you should actually Clorox your bones to help remove the lead that's contained in the bones. So for those of you that have gone hog wild over bone broth drinks, and bone broth eliminates lead, related products. You have to know what you're doing, you have to know what you're eating, and get your lead tested. Because as we get older and you start losing bone mass, a lot of the sequestered bone in that tissue starts to relocate to your brain. And I truly believe, as I mentioned earlier, that heavy metals like lead, like copper, as well as mercury and aluminum, they have a lot to do with the problems that we're having with cognitive health. Now, let's talk about sweeteners, as I alluded to a little sooner. For those that are diabetics, and remember, I'm from a diabetic family, I love this Lakanto maple flavored syrup. This particular product is made with purified water, a little bit of erythritol from a non-GMO fermented erythritol. It's the healthiest sugar alcohol on the market, as well as a little bit of monk fruit. This has a lower amount of carbohydrates and total calories than your maple syrup, and it has just as good a taste, I can tell you, because I serve this very frequently to my little grandson. The other natural sweetener, which your home should not be without, just because it's so anti-allergic producing and it's good for burns and it's good for wound healing, is none other than Manuka honey, independently tested. I'm going to take a little drink of water, which is my filtered water, and I should have my stainless steel straw, which they did not put on my table, but that's okay because I usually use a stainless steel or even sometimes a copper-rich straw, because a little bit of copper is actually very healthy for the system, but too much of a good thing can be toxic. So it's a double-edged straw or a double-edged sword. Now, let me look at some of the natural other ingredients that we have here. I love the chickpea pasta. It's one of the best gluten-free pastas that I know of because it's the highest in protein. The other pastas that we use include pastas that are made from a little bit of tiger nut flour, which is another alternative flour, very high in certain nutrients and very high in resistant starch, as well as the nuts.com source of Jerusalem artichoke flour, which we use and sometimes make homemade pasta with. So for those of you that are gluten-free, I would not just be using the usual suspects, which would mean a lot of rice products, which can be very high in arsenic. I'd be using tiger nut organic flour, as well as sweet potato flour, as well as artichoke flour. This is Jerusalem artichoke flour, which you can get at nuts.com. And now for some of our condiments. The best condiment that I have found for probiotics is not one that anybody talks about, and that is your South River dandelion leek miso. Miso is a probiotic second to none, and just putting a half a teaspoon or a teaspoon, a little bit of salad dressing is so very helpful for the system because you're getting healthy fermentation. So for those of you that want to add a little bit of probiotics to your salad dressings, there's nothing like a little miso, and this company, South River, is the best by far. I also want to show you some of our tuna fish. We've used Safe Catch tuna fish, which is very low in mercury, very high in selenium. And so for those of you that need a little alternative or variety to the foods that you're eating, I like a low mercury tuna fish. I enjoy at least a tuna fish sandwich on gluten-free bread once a week. Now, when it comes to supplements, I'm not a huge supplement believer in place of foods, but I can tell you that this particular whey protein product is the best in the country. It's called Unikey Whey Protein, made from all natural, non-denatured whey protein, made from the A2 protein, which is so important because it's a non-mutated casein type protein that you can only get from special cows. This is important because this is highly protective against any kind of diabetes or cardiovascular situation. It's 99% lactose free and is only lightly stevia sweetened. The other supplements that I use is one in particular for my skin, because a lot of people will ask me what I do for my skin. I go to sleep in the Fat Flush GLA 90 product, which is a black currency product, very high in omega-6. I slather this on my skin. I take it internally, as well as the omega-6 that you find in the pine nut oil, as well as hemp seed oil. Remember, for good skin, no matter what your age and stage of life, it's omega-6 to the rescue. Last but not least is going to be the Super GI Cleanse. So with all the toxins in the environment, all the radiation, all the heavy metals, all of the particles that could be swirling in the air, from the nano aluminum to the barium to the lead, you've got to be taking something on a daily basis that can actually push and eliminate those things through your system. I have found a high fiber combination which contains buckthorn bark, cranberry fruit, flaxseed, licorice root, fennel, and Irish moss, and we put this together in a super GI cleanse, which I take every night to make sure that I'm not holding heavy metals or radiation particles from the air that I breathe, from some of the foods that I'm eating, especially if you're eating sea vegetables, which could be loaded with strontium and cesium-137. I take this, I take this, I take this. I also make sure that every day what I'm doing is taking sufficient amount of water, at least 2 quarts of my filtered water with a metal gone filter, and I may put in a little bit of electrolytes or a little bit of cran water. So on that note, I'm going to ask my Fat Flush assistant, who is none other than Teresa Paff, who's our Fat Flush kitchen chef, to read me some of the questions so that I can answer them online for you. Teresa.
Well, so far, we have a lot of positive thank yous for you, Ann Louise. They're loving this information.
Thank you, thank you.
They're hoping that there will be a list of products afterwards so they can kind of keep this straight together. We haven't had a lot of questions so far.
So there's going to be a blog that I wrote, and that blog should actually be posted right here, right now. If somebody from our other Texas office can post that blog, there should be a link to the blog. The blog is I have my Healthy Kitchen Makeover. You're going to see the links to most of these products, not all of them, but most. Remember that aloe one that I just added to the mix is very important for internal health and to heal ulcerations and to make sure you get the mucopolysaccharides, which are so good for health and healing, especially for the skin and for the elimination of wrinkles. So that one's not on your list. You may also find that the Manuka honey is not on your list, but you can find this. This is a New Zealand product from my understanding. And you can find this in any health food store. This is good topically for burns. There's nothing like it. And for diabetic wounds, I used this on my father's diabetic wounds when he was in the hospital towards the end of his life, and this did miracles. Nothing but the Manuka honey was able to really heal the diabetic sores that this poor man endured during the end of his life. So this is like God's miracle healing element. This is like liquid gold. Questions?
We have a question that just came in. Which one of your diets has the best results?
The question is, which one of my diets has the best results? I can say for no to slow losers, we need to look at the clean keto program, which is the Radical Metabolism. We've got a 4-day intensive cleanse, which is followed by a 21 reboot. But what's more important with all of this is I actually am in my Facebook groups. I answer your questions. There's no other author, I guarantee you, in this country that spends the kind of time I do, because I care, and I've been there, and I've been heavier in my day, and I want to really help all of you achieve your health goals, look better from the inside out, and be not just healthy now, but for the rest of your life, because my pledge to you is that in 2020, you're going to start living till 120.
And Louise, Maisie says...
Nice and loud.
Maisie says, I'm a copperhead, and I'm wondering if your daily vitamin is enough for copperheads, thinking of buying.
The copper, I was a copperhead too, Maisie. Is that Maisie? M-A-S-I-E?
Yes.
All right, Maisie, I was a copperhead, and I'm still a bit of a copperhead, quite frankly. This is Q natural coloring that I use on my hair, just in case you're wondering. It's the most natural copper coloring I could find. And the vitamin that we have is a copper-free multiple. I created it for myself, not for my clients, but for myself. It has a 2-to-1 ratio of magnesium to calcium, number one. No other vitamin in the country has that. We also have sufficient molybdenum, sufficient amount of vitamin C, as well as other trace minerals like manganese that you need if you have a copper problem. The other things that people need to do if they have copper is to get one of my metal gone filters, which was on the table. I'll show it to you again. You can get that at unikihealth.com. You have to make sure that you're not getting excessive amounts of copper from the environment, which is where the majority of people are getting it from. And you must follow a diet, Macy, that does not contain excessive amounts of nuts, seeds, or avocado. They are all sky high in copper. as is chocolate. So you got to look to your diet. You got to look to the copper IUD. You have to look to your water filtration system. And even if you don't test for your water, you can be sure that this is going to remove anything that's toxic from your municipal water supply or even from your well water. One more question I think we have here.
Is keto really healthy for the long run?
So is keto really healthy for the long run? For the short run, it can make miracles, and I'll be the first one to say that. Now, the ketogenic diet was not developed by the people you see out there promoting and hawking products in this day and age. I'll be the first to tell you. It was actually a program that should be given to the originator of the diet, because I believe in giving credit where credit is due. It was Dr. Robert Atkins that used a ketogenic diet as phase one of his program. It was the Atkins diet phase one, ladies and gentlemen, and it was never designed for you to be on long term. So what I'm finding is that people that are on the ketogenic diet have problems with their gut. They get problems with their gallbladder, problems sometimes with kidney stones, keto flu. There are also problems that they're having with gallstones. So I think it's a program that you have to modify as you go along, and the proper ketogenic diet would be a clean keto, like your Radical Metabolism, that has the healthy fats and not all the saturated fats, like your butter and like your coconut oil and like your bacon, because all those are pretty high when cooked in ages or advanced glycation end products. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Other questions?
Do people tend to have better results when they add supplements to the diet?
Do people tend to have better results when they add supplements to the diet? I think that the supplements act almost like as a safety insurance spot for them. I think it's very important to have the supplements, particularly if you're not eating enough food. If you're on a ketogenic diet, I would definitely be taking enzymes, for God's sake, because you're getting no enzymes, you're not getting polyphenols, you're not getting antioxidants. So you need a daily multiple with that. And you also need a supplement like the Bio Builder if you're on a high-fat diet, whether it's keto or any of the other generations of the keto diet, so that your body is able to produce enough bile so that you can break down the fat. If you have no gallbladder, you should have no business being on keto.
We have another question coming in. Just a second here.
Questions. We love questions, as my voice goes. You can see I'm very passionate. I'm a passionate truth teller.
Renee would like to know, do any of your products help prevent kidney stones? Concerned about taking Bio Builder because my gallbladder was removed.
Oy vey's mir. This product was developed for you. The product was developed for people that have no gallbladder. When I did the research to one of my books, I found that there was a connection between hypothyroidism and no gallbladder. So we created a product because there was nothing on the market that has the right amount of ox bile, the right amount of nutrients that are phytogenic as well as lipotropic. And you're a perfect candidate. Ask any of my people online if you go to unikihealth.com and take a look at what all of the reviews have to say. Uniki Health is my official distributor of all my products. I've been a co-formulator for them for 28 years, most proudly, may I say. One more question, and then we'll call this a day.
You mentioned earlier taking enzymes. What enzymes do you recommend?
I love enzymes. Why? Because as we get older, you lose your enzymes. One of the reasons that people come down with pancreatic issues, including pancreatic cancer, should I not, God forbid, is because they have no enzymes left. And they have no enzymes because they're eating high protein diets, just like the one half of you are on with this carnivore diet. So you're using up your trypsin and your chymotrypsin. You need to be taking other enzymes. You need to be taking them to help digest your food in between meals, to digest all of the fibrous tissue that you have, all the adhesions, all the scar tissue in your system. The one enzyme that I like, because I helped develop it, and I did it because of my research and over 40 years of experience, is called Digestici, which has certain elements that help you to digest fibrous tissue, fibrosis. It helps for you to digest your adhesions and scar tissue. And I developed it not for you. I developed it for me. I'm just sharing it with you. And the reason I did it is because many years ago I suffered a concussion and I had 10 stitches and a nice scar in the middle of my forehead. And I've been working on this scar tissue and this forehead issue for about 20 years at this point. And the only thing that I have found to start breaking up the scar is by taking internal enzymes, which I take between meals. I take the digestive key 2-3 times a day between meals, and I think it's either the bromelain or the serapeptase. It's one of the elements in there that I'm actually seeing a real difference in my scar tissue. So this is for internal, external prevention, God forbid, of cancer, which can affect 1 out of 2 of us if we have the privilege of living so long. So these are things you don't get on any other program. You're deficient in enzymes, your polyphenols, your antioxidants if you're on a high-fat diet and you're not taking the proper digestive elements. One more question.
Our last question.
Last but not least, thank you.
And Louise, what do you think about mail order type diets that you see on TV?
What do I think about mail order type diets that I see on TV? I think for those of you that are uninitiated and unsophisticated and haven't been following my work or anybody else for the past 30 years, then probably those are diets that'll get you on track, to keep you on track and to keep you healthy with all of your senses intact, with your brain, your heart, your joints, your ovaries, your testes, your prostate, your stomach. To have all of those intact, you have to follow a diet like Radical Metabolism or Fat Flush, which was the diet that actually launched the detox weight loss revolution. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye, good luck. You've been a terrific audience. Love you. See you next time.